Right then folk, welcome back to another video beer review. Today we've got a beer coming out of Batemans and it is their Vintage Ale. There we go, 2014. Limited release 2014 and I bought it just the other day from In at Home.
So it's a vintage ale?
Yeah, I've never seen it before, so I've no idea why it's been released more recently or if it has been released more recently. £4.79, 7.5% ABV, as you expect, sort of ABV of a big, strong vintage ale. We used to brew barley wine back in the 1970s, and my father George took the last 10 cases of the final bottling and hid them under the fermenting vessels to be opened on April 5th, 1981, my 21st birthday. But then he forgot about them. In 2007, our fermenting room foreman said, "Stuart, are we ever going to open these bottles, or are you going to try to pretend you're not 21 yet?" We opened the bottle to find it was the most delicious, exciting beer we had ever tasted, just bursting with flavours: plums, port, malt, brandy, vanilla and almonds. This long-matured oak-aged vintage ale is a perfect match for that 21st birthday beer. Well, it's my 30th on Monday, so it's almost fitting.
A vintage ale for a vintage Harry.
Yeah, it is. Best before after December 2014, so it was bottled back then. It's just been sat somewhere, and obviously not in the store, but it's just been sat somewhere for a while before they've thought about selling it. So I think it's going to be interesting. Best after 2014, December 2014. Best before December 2039.
I think it'll be all right.
We'll be alright.
What ABV is it?
7.5. Session ale.
Session barley wine.
Session vintage ale. So I must also add as well, Buster, who used to be at Brecon Brewing, is now the head brewer at Batemans. So best of luck. Last time we met, I think I was working at Sill Hill, probably about 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah. As you can see, lovely dark kind of stained mahogany, chestnutty colour. Maybe about a third finger of a... Well, Harry's got more head than me. And yeah, you can see it's got a nice kind of fawn creamy coloured head to it. So yeah, not too much carbonation, but I mean at the age the beer is, would you expect that, to be honest?
Doing well. Wow. That's a boozy one for a 7.5.
Yeah, it smells like a big, like, 12-13%
yeah.
barley wine or something. That's impressive, actually. I have to say that.
It's really really fruity,
and it doesn't smell. It doesn't smell oxidized or anything.
No,
like
it doesn't.
I mean,
like what they said with like port, it smells almost like a port.
It's kind of like it's like a kind of brandy soaked fruit. You know that fruit brown bread loaf thing that you get.
Yeah. So it's what, 9 years old now.
Quite a bit of leathery brown sugar in this one, but also like a sweet, kind of slightly toasty brown sugar as well.
Like muscovado sugar sort of note.
That's fair. But definitely a bit of like a straight up sweet caramel to it as well. The brown sugars are nice. Yeah. It has almost got a little bit of that kind. It's like it has got a wee bit of like a Christmas pudding type thing to it as well. Yeah. But maybe not quite as dark as that. A bit brighter.
No, I'm going down like the vinous sort of line. Like.
See, for me, Venice is like kind of like more funky and sharp, to be honest.
Yeah, I always find that to be like grapey, winey, and this has got that kind of dryness and that. No, not this is slightly tart, but I wouldn't necessarily associate that with being vinous, but it's quite dry, slightly fruity.
It still has quite a wee bit. It still has a little bit of like floral, grassy, hoppy character to it, which is interesting.
It smells absolutely divine.
Fruits, yeah, plums, raisiny sharpness, black currants, definitely, figs. Yeah. And it has got a bit of like a datey note to it as well, yeah.
And a red wine-like note. Some lovely dark grapes. It smells absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
We'll dive in.
Slanja.
Cheers. Yeah, that's old.
You can taste the kind of
the bit of age on it.
The kind of it's got that dry, bready, woody type thing, but it sweetens up a lot.
Yeah, it's got an element of like that mustiness. And having drunk beers that are considerably older than this as well. A couple of years back, I digressed massively on a shell, but a few years back I bought, well, almost 10 years ago now, I bought about 400 different beers that are about 40 years old, or back then about 35 years old. So out of that lot there was stuff from the mid-70s, early 80s and stuff, and I kind of bought it because I saw in the mix of it, it had a Fuller's 97 and a Fuller's 2004 vintage ale, and I knew the value of those two items were way more than the actual value of the rest of the stuff. So after selling those Fuller's 2 vintage ales, I think I sold the 04 for 300 quid, or 315 I think it was, and the 97 for 515 or something, to some poor American man. Rich American man, but
a silly American man.
A silly American man. We did work through some of the other ones, and I still haven't drank through very many of them, but they all had this kind of musty, earthy, woody, leathery kind of note. And you get that a little bit in this, but you can imagine on those which are like 30 years its senior, were pretty extreme, and some of them almost undrinkable. One
thing as well I would say on that note, barley wines and old ales and stuff. I think the barley wines for me are one of the heavier beers that don't age that well beyond 5 years. I would say if you have a barley wine, even if it's an English one, the English ones aren't quite as hop forward as the American, right enough. Drink them within the first 5 years, absolutely. Because this one has a little bit of it, but it holds up a bit better. If it was stronger, you would get less of this kind of woody, leathery sort of thing, because it's 7.5%. It's actually quite a weak beer to age, I would say.
I mean, typically you expect Fuller's vintage ale, for example, is about 8.5. So this being 7.5, it's going underneath the kind of ABV pricing of what you would pay for something that's a bit, a bit more.
So this is basically this is defined as an old ale, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or is vintage ale its own thing?
Yeah, I think it's just more like an old ale sort of thing. But one to rest and one to sit down. But I haven't seen one. I've never seen this beer in the first place.
No. It's a bit rye bready anyway. A bit rye bread crust, sweet rye bread. Try not to close the door. It has got that kind of raisiny fruit bread, toffee, Christmas pudding type thing. A little bit of a treacle note on it. Black treacle, just edging in there. Yeah. For me, it's bread in the bottom layer and cake, and like a sort of maybe like a Christmas pudding type thing. Then you get the brown sugar. So toasty brown sugar. It gets sweeter toward the edge of the palate as well on that layer. Then you've got the more oily treacle, molassesy note, sweet caramel in the middle of the palate. And you get a wee bit of nuttiness out of this into the aftertaste, and then some of the woodiness within the nuttiness as well.
Oh, it's lovely.
Still has a wee bit of floral note to it as well.
Yeah.
And a wee bit of grassiness, and then it's the fruits after that. The fruits are quite sharp too.
It's a lovely beer. It's a lovely beer.
What do you reckon for the fruits?
Figgy, kind of plumminess.
Raisin in the beginning.
Raisin, though. Raisin to you initially. There's quite a sharpness on it, and I'm trying to work out exactly what it is, but maybe
it's not a cherry. It's not like a sour cherry.
I was thinking cranberry, but it's not.
Lingen, no. Has almost got like a wee touch of like a lingen to it, but I don't know how common that is here. It's quite a Swedish thing.
It's foreign.
Foreign berries.
It's foreign notes that you don't get in British beers.
It has the sharpness, and then it gives you more of a figgy, raisiny, plummy, and like a blackcurrant note. Yeah. But the fruit doesn't hang around too long.
No, it hangs around. It's interesting. I always find like how much of that kind of fruitiness is always going to come from malts and stuff. And it's amazing how much of that will be coming from the malts. Lovely.
I've never really thought about it from the malts, but it's the yeasty kind of thing.
Yeasty kind of estery notes, mixing with the malt. It's going to be a lovely yeast that they're using as well.
You see that with hops as well. I mean, Simcoe gives you a lot of red fruit in black IPAs and stuff. So
cracking. Well, if you ever see this about, which few of you may do, give it a go.
Get a bash.
Batemans, their vintage ale from 2014. Wonderful. See you next one.
Slaz it.